Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here, and this is going to be my review for the Go-Go Power Rangers Forever Rangers. Oddly enough, has nothing to do with Hannah Montana Forever, much to my disappointment. It's going to be my review of this, but also just in general, this last big arc of Go-Go. I'll probably be talking about Go-Go in general. Like, I'm not going to go beat for beat. I'm like, the date was whenever Go-Go Power Rangers started, page 1. But I'm going to give my overall thoughts on Go-Go so far. But as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm kind of reviewing the comics by arc. I will be doing a video for the beginnings of the next arc of Go-Go and Necessary Evil and stuff like that, but in general I will review them by arc. But anyway, so this next arc after, I think the last arc I reviewed was the color swap arc, where they went to that planet and all their powers got shifted around, and they, for a brief time, had different costumes. It primarily focused on Jason and Trini. That kind of led into this next arc. They were very intertwined, meaning that this last stretch of Go-Go has been about the lead up to Green with Evil, but it's not just about that, because like that was about, oh, Rita's on the planet getting the power coin, and then after that we're now getting to how she unlocks it, which was really cool, because we basically had a bunch of really awesome stuff in here, and this became like the comic right now. Like, it's weird. I'll get into my general thoughts about that at the end, but it's weird that like Beyond the Grid on paper was what I would have wanted more when the comic started. Non-MMPR stuff, stuff that could possibly bring us into more lore stuff, which it did, but this was like really surprising because this kind of started off as much more character-driven stuff. Not that it isn't, but I mean more so solely that. But this last arc gave us quite a bit of lore, because we had three main things that were happening that were all related in some way, which was Rita trying to unlock the Green Ranger coin, you know, just getting Green with Evil started, which involved the second thing, which was a bit on Rita's origins, and then the introduction of Alpha 1, the origins of the Alphas in general. We even got an Edenoi shout out, which was super cool. But so this arc had a lot of really cool lore. So it's like, it reminded me of once the original comic got going and we started expanding on the lore, where like I was excited to get to Go-Go in comparison to Beyond the Grid, because this is where we were really starting to get some interesting stuff. We see that Zordon like knew Rita's mother. Rita's mother was a good guy. She was trying to hide him from Master Vile. We got little tidbits about Master Vile that she said, like, it's weird because it's like, she said that he used to be kind. I don't know if that means Master Vile was also completely turned. They sort of implied that, but it also could have just been the stereotypical thing of like, you know, a guy just lying to a girl to get with her. Like, oh yeah, I'm totally good, and then he ends up being Master Vile. There was like little bits at that. I'm not sure what they're gonna do with that. But, you know, at the time, Rita's mom was good, Master Vile was evil, obviously, and she was trying to hide Rita from him, and so she didn't start off just being, because like on the show, I kind of assumed Rita and Zed's parents, or Rita and Rito's parents were just both evil, and they grew up on planet Evil or wherever. But this was interesting, and that like Zordon knew Rita when she was a baby and was involved in trying to hide her. Obviously it didn't work out so well. Rita basically brings back her mom's soul or energy. I don't think it was fully her, I think it was just soul energy. Like, I don't know, there might have been a part that clarified that I missed, but she just looked like a floating force ghost. But she brought her back so that she could use her essentially as a sacrifice to unlock the Green Ranger coin, because the coins, you know, have to be bonded to a good person. That was a really cool tidbit that I never thought too much about in the original show, if I'm being honest. I always just assumed that Rita basically used her evil magic to force, you know, the coin to work for her. But so that was a cool bit, made even cooler by the fact that Rita's mom's design has the armor on it, which is really neat. So it explains why the Green Ranger suit looks like that, because during the color swap arc, we got a look at someone morphing into the Green Ranger suit, and it looked just like the other Rangers without the armor. So it was Rita's mother being used to unlock this that gave the Green Ranger its unique armor, which was super cool. And also her design was very reminiscent of, in some ways, of the way Mystic Mother looks later. There was a lot about her mother trying to convince Rita that there's good still left in here, which obviously foreshadows her eventually, you know, redeeming herself post Zordon wave, or you know, however it goes down in this universe. But we did get an annual story that featured Mystic Mother, so we know that that happens in the comic world and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. Like, Rita and Zed were always some of the most one-note villains, and this gave her a lot of depth, a lot of really cool lore. I enjoyed all the build-up to the Green Ranger stuff and all that. That was really neat. And then you had Alpha 1, and we introduced like how alphas were made. Like I said, they even had Edenoi reference we brought in, which was like, you know, the Masked Rider episode where we found out where Alpha was, and like I like that we even had that attention to detail to that lore. And so we meet Alpha 1, the original Alpha that teamed up with Zordon, and he sort of initially presents himself as an ally. And there's some really interesting stuff here because he ultimately betrays the team. I mean, he did betray them, but it was an interesting viewpoint he took. Basically, the entire storyline reminded me of the scene in Daredevil Season 2 when Punisher is lecturing Daredevil saying, "I think you're a half measure. I think you're a man that can't get the job done," where the Rangers are fighting Goldar, and Alpha 5 like zaps Goldar. He's like, "Damn, let's kill this guy." And the Rangers like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we don't do that here. Just at the end of every episode, we kill a monster, then we kill him again. But we don't kill." That's kind of a debate that happens in a lot of different superhero properties or any kind of properties that have a story like this where the you know, the moral dilemma of do you kill the bad guy or do you jail him? If you jail him and they escape or whatever, are you at fault for not taking him out? And that's been done a bazillion times, but I think it's in particular interesting in PR standards for a couple reasons. I mean, one being they'll probably never tackle it in the main show as we know it because, you know, it's still a kid's show, so they're going to be playing with kid gloves in certain instances, so something like that likely wouldn't be tackled in the traditional show. So it's an interesting story to bring up for PR because it's never really been brought up to this extent, but also because of the way PR works, where 90% of our villains are treated as just disposable monsters. I mean, in the Z-Wave, only characters like Rita and Zed and Divatox and ones that were humanoid got redeemed, but then characters like Goldar, even characters like Goldar that were, you know, we knew him for a long time, not like he had redemption or anything, but they even did weird stuff like the maid outfit stuff. He was just dusted. And so we treat like the monsters of the week like there's no real question about it, outside of series like Time Force and SPD where they jailed them. So I think it's interesting and almost, like, not pissed me off, but, like, was really dumb to me when they said, well, no, we don't kill. I'm like, well, what makes Goldar different than every monster of the week? Why the hell don't you just kill him? Like, that would end the problem right there. And I thought I honestly agreed with Alpha. Ever since I was little, I thought Zordon's like, don't escalate a battle unless Rita forces you to be dumb. I'm like, so you're telling me it would be bad to take the Megazord and just blow up her palace? Like, you could literally save anyone, or everyone, and anyone. Obviously, again, I know, kid show, they're not going to do that, especially during season 1. But I think there's an interesting debate to be had there, and I think that they tackled it a little bit more interestingly here than they did with Beyond the Grid, where they just sort of swept under the rug the reason that universe was cut off. I was a little bit disappointed in this issue how quickly it kind of resolved itself, but they left the door open. I mean, basically, you had the reveal of Alpha 5 betrayed them, here's my philosophy, and then this issue was the fight. But then they basically implied he's going to upload himself to the Alpha Cloud and he'll be back. So I definitely hope he comes back because I think that's a legitimate, interesting debate to be had there. Because, again, since they treat the monsters as disposable anyway, why don't you just stop the problem before it starts, you know? Because I always joke, like, why don't you just get the Megazord and smush them? You know, step on them and they're like, I'm gonna grow. Nope, you step on them again before they get to grow. I mean, that would make for really boring TV and comics, but just logically. The point is, I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was, especially since I kind of agreed with him, especially with Zordon's methods, and then the story about Zack questioning him. I really hope that he comes back in general, because I think he's an interesting character, but then when he does, we get to explore that more in depth, and not just outright immediately classify it as wrong like they seem to be. Like with the Beyond the Grid thing, there was legitimate reasons why that universe should have been cut off, and I think that this is the perfect medium where we can actually have both sides debate about it and not just automatically rule out one side because that's the right way to do it. But so that was super cool. They did tie it into, because they brought everything full circle, and they tied it into Zack questioning Zordon's methods with lines directly up to what his character was like in the early regular MMPR comics. We even looped it right back around to when Rita initially kidnapped him and offered him to be the initial candidate for Green Ranger. The issue in general kind of loops us right back almost to the beginnings, well, not exactly, because we started the MMPR comic post Green with Evil, but you know what I mean. It starts to line everything up, looping everything together. The characters' designs even look correct to what they were from that, which was really cool. I thought that was a nice touch. But this arc was really cool. Lots of really cool lore bits. I loved the Alpha 1 stuff, loved the Rita stuff. There was, of course, some great character stuff in there as well. It was just a really enjoyable arc, and it was such a surprise that it was, you know, the comic to pay attention to compared to the main one, even though they were doing things that I would consider more exciting to me. I think if I had to score it real quick, I'd probably give this standalone final issue of this arc like an 8.5, but I'd give the arc in general, this kind of finale Alpha 1 Green with Evil Origins arc, like a 9. I think it was really good, really great lead up. Like, it was so good I almost wanted to see an issue or two within Green with Evil, because so much of this stuff is just getting to see the beats of MMPR but with good writing, which is kind of neat. And the reason this is like called the finale arc is because this is like the finale of the first wave or the first section of Go-Go Power Rangers, whatever you want to call it, of what it is known as. It's kind of interesting because it reminds me a lot of the way The Walking Dead is now, where this was basically like Fear the Walking Dead, where it's supposed to be super prequel, and now Go-Go is going to be caught up to where MMPR left off before Shattered Grid with Tommy on the team, and then the other main comic is jumping ahead of them, just like Fear and Walking Dead are now, which I think is kind of interesting. So and there's some really interesting stuff that ties together, some interesting descriptions and stuff we got. I'm really looking forward to it. But like overall, so far, Go-Go has been a huge surprise in general. I mean, I rolled my eyes when it was first introduced because it was just like, ugh, more MMPR, you know? I mean, I liked the comic we had, which was great, but I was like, can we not do something else? But then I read it, and even the early issues surprised me with, yeah, sure, it's more MMPR, but the character writing was really great. It was really intriguing and interesting. And then, you know, we got into the Shattered Grid stuff, and then we got into this stuff, and it really took off to be amazing. So it's pulled off a feat, which has been kind of amazing, where it's actually having me clamoring for MMPR content. Like, MMPR has been so oversaturated in almost every facet lately in the last almost decade now that I'm just so sick of it. But now with the way Beyond the Grid was and with how good the writing is, I'm like legitimately excited to tackle both Go-Go Power Rangers and MMPR proper in the MMPR era. But so anyway, that's about it for this one. Let me know what you guys thought of the arc. What are you looking forward to most out of the next comic arcs? Like I said, I will be covering the first issue debut arcs for the next waves, but then I'll, as usual, review them by arc, unless there's any other news or stuff. There's some interesting spoilers I thought about doing a video for, but I'm not sure. But you guys don't need to hear about that. I can talk to myself anytime. Anyway, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for all my videos. Till next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.